and we're going to start with a new project. And we're going to call this one PHP project number 9 for me. Okay. And let me close all the previous week's files, and we will start out with our very first PHP file. I'll call this one oop1 PHP. Oop PHP. Is everybody ready? There are a few words that I want to talk about, and I want you to start giving me some definitions. You should be able to easily give definitions to these words. Maybe some of them. Just so that we can revise some of these concepts. Now, I know you guys already know what object-oriented programming is because you've done at least 2 object-oriented programming languages, is where the whole programming logic revolves around the concept of an object, and you create an object in the form of a classification, and then you pack all your details inside the classification. Inside the classification, you typically have private entities, public entities, protected entities, and then you interact with the classification using variables of those classifications called an object. The objects have to be instantiated through the constructors. I'm going very quickly through these concepts, assuming you all understand these concepts. But remember, PHP is not an object-oriented programming language. PHP is a scripting language. So PHP originally never even supported objects, but over the period of time, PHP started adding objects. So when it started adding objects, it could only do things to a certain capacity. Couldn't do it all. So what is a class? In the most simplest form. Anybody?
It's like the framework of whatever you're going to be working with.
Okay, it's a framework. Okay, somebody else?
A separate place for you to store code outside the main.
Say that again, please, Cameron.
A separate place to store code outside the main.
Okay. Okay. So how is class different from a file then? Because you can also store your code in a file.
I was gonna say it's like a blueprint kind of, if you want to.
Okay.
Just a sweet, simple answer.
Okay. Okay. Christian, you were also saying something?
Yeah, class is like it's a collection of objects in what is it? I think it's like that share
Collection.
collection of similar objects. That's what it was.
Okay. Okay. Collection of, okay, because objects will be created afterwards.
Right.
So class cannot be a collection of objects.
A container for objects?
No.
It's the same thing. Isn't it? I feel like I read that as a definition with something.
Because
Must have been for a different language.
objects
Maybe.
are defined of the type class. Class doesn't contain objects. You know what I'm saying? Objects are instantiated on a class. The class doesn't hold it. So class is, yes, a blueprint, and class is a template, okay? A class can also be said a programmer defined data type. Can we say that? I'm not saying user, I'm saying programmer, which could come in either way. Could be a user, could be a developer built in. It's a data type, okay? What does this data type holds? What does it has? It has functions and
Function members.
data,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah. It's members, right?
Now, when we talk about objects, objects are, which are called also instances, objects or instances are what?
Data types.
No, a class is a data type. Object is not a data type.
Oh,
I mean, they're just data, right?
So object or instance, oops,
Which is an object instance of the class type, right?
is a data structure. Remember, it holds the entire set of properties that are defined by the template. So anytime you create an object, you get a snapshot of all the properties inside an object. We're
Alright,
using
okay.
constructor, it can give them initial values, then it can use
Right.
getters and setters to retrieve data. So it's a data structure. So an object or an instance is a data structure of class type. Does that make sense to you guys?
mm-hmm.
Yes.
Now, member variable, the idea of a member variable in PHP is that these are the variables defined by a class. Or I should say inside a class is a better word, inside a class. Now, if we were to further define it, I could say it is invisible to anyone outside the class. The only way to access it would be through member functions. So member functions will be defined as these are the functions defined inside a class and are used to access object data.
Inheritance is what's going on between a parent and a child class. The child class takes from the parent class.
Okay.
Yeah, the child class inherits along with its own members, inherits the members from the parent, you know, if the parent exposes those members to be inherited.
Okay. So yeah, so you can basically define inheritance as when a class is defined on an existing class, right? And once it's defined in an existing class, then it can inherit from the existing class certain functionalities. Okay, so you can say that when a class is defined by inheriting existing function of another class, which in other words is called a parent or base class.
Mm-hmm.
Then it is called inheritance. The class can inherit all or a few member functions slash variables. So parent class, which is also called base class. And in some languages, it is also called superclass. So it's a class that is inherited from by another class. So superclass, base class, these are some of the words. So child class would be what? What are some of the other words for child class?
Wasn't subclass one of them?
Okay, so sub and super get along. How about base and?
Oh, actually, no.
Derived?
Derived.
Derived.
Okay.
So a class that inherits from another class. Polymorphism comes next.
One thing can be used to do many things.
Okay. Same name, different forms. It's a polymorphic behavior. Some function name will stay the same, but parameters will be different. Okay. I'll give you some more terminologies and then we'll talk about those as well. So let's start with data abstraction. What is data abstraction?
It's when you either hide or just make your data difficult to be accessed by things that you don't want to access it.
So representation of data in which implementation details are hidden.
isn't encapsulation bundlings of data? At least that's what I remember it as.
Yeah. Encapsulating or bundling things together, right? So, so we can say encapsulates data and member functions together. And why do we do that? To form an object. So the object is encapsulated. Now, what would be constructor?
To me, a constructor is just a special method.
Okay, it's a special method. What does it do?
It's a method to initialize all the members of a function, like all the variables. Just give them their default values, anything that needs to be set up when the object is created, just do all that kind of thing.
Destructor is just the opposite. That's a special method to delete whatever object holds when object goes out of scope. Okay. Now let's get to creating classes in PHP. So the basic syntax would be to type class followed by class name, opening and closing curly braces, just like that. Then you can list variables, however you want to list your variables, like variable 1, variable 2, etc. Okay. And then for the functions, you can write function my function, and then you can give your arguments. And whatever detail it holds inside the body of the function. Just a basic blueprint skeleton of a class, and then whatever other statements you want. So now based on this, we will create a class called books. So far, so good, everybody? And just like in other programming languages, getters generally return a value and setter take a parameter, right? So it's the same stuff over here. I'm just waiting for everybody to get done with the skeleton, and then I will move on to writing code inside the methods. Do you guys remember the this keyword from object-oriented programming? Why,
Yeah.
why did we used to use that?
No, we use it to specify, you know, we want to access this object.
So what's the significance of this?
It lets you, isn't it like a shortcut that lets you instantiate an object with, I can't remember what it is. Basically, you say, I want to make this whatever, and it automatically just creates it, and you don't have to write a line of code. I can't remember exactly what it
So
is.
are you instantiating an object with the word this?
I know what this is. It's used to use two variables of the same name. Well, that's what I've used it for.
Definitely, if you have the property named exactly the same as the parameter, you will use the word this to differentiate between the two. But what is this? Is it an object that you instantiate?
No, it's just, I wouldn't even call it a constant. It's just, if you're in a member function, you can use it.
Right, but what is it by itself?
It's a
It's just-
keyword used to differentiate between two variables.
It is a keyword. That part is good. The other part is
just-
the use of it, but
It's just an object. Is that what you're trying to get at?
what kind of object? Is it like something you instantiate?
No, it's a global, well, not even global object. I'm not quite sure what you're asking.
If I show something like this,
Pointer.
pointer, it's a pointer.
Okay.
I was literally like, I wanted to say it, but because I was thinking about like, oh, that's what I would call it in like RPG, but I'm like, I didn't want to say it just to be wrong. But
Is
yeah.
just a pointer which will point to whichever object calls the method. So the object that calls the method, this works on behalf of that object. When it goes out of scope, this is not there anymore. So if I want my get price to display the price, I can use echo this, right? And then followed by the actual property. However, let's see if you guys remember this from last week. What is that symbol that you use between object and its property, or object and its function?
Isn't it the equals and then the greater symbol, I believe?
Close.
I think it's just the dash and then greater than.
Yeah,
Dash.
it's a hyphen and a
Okay.
greater than. Yeah, we don't use period in PHP. Why?
Because that's
for,
already used for a different purpose.
It is already used
Yeah.
for that. And what is that different purpose?
It's used for the for references and not pointers
Yeah, concatenation.
or whatever.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Or
Now-
wait, no. Right, yeah, concatenation. My bad.
Okay. Now in PHP, when I just use the word this, it gives me an error, right? So I got to use $this. Okay. And then let's also use period in the same line so that you can see, oops, is being used for concatenation. Okay, something very similar will go in title. So once the class definition is done, the next step would be to create an object. The syntax for creating an object is object, oops, equals to new class. That's the syntax. So if I'm creating a books object, I can say book1 equals to new books. Okay, so I have book1, book2, and book3. 3 objects. Okay. Calling functions using objects. So let's say I want to first write the function, the object name, sorry, object name, and then I can call a function name, just like that. So I have book1, set title, C++ programming. So I'm just setting the titles. Very similarly, I'll set the price. Now to display, I'll do the same thing. Book one, get title. Book one, price. So when you run it, you should be able to see the output. Everybody with me so far? Okay, now let's do this. Why don't you guys create a new PHP file called oop2. Let me give you a task. Let's see if you guys can create your own class. Create a class called bank account with the following member variables. Okay. So I'm just adding one more layer. Yeah, please give me a green check when you guys are done with this. Josh and Tristan still working on it? Okay. Oh, Tristan is still working on it. Okay. Tristan Thomas still working on it. Thomas is done. Okay, we'll see if Tristan is done. So you guys can add another function, create a function called withdraw, which will take a parameter called amount. If the amount is less than balance, subtract the amount from the balance. And then withdraw some amount from one of the two instances and then display the value. Let me clear the participation feedback so that you guys can give me the feedback again when you're done. Okay, couple people are done. Okay. Okay, as more people get done, we will then move on to our next step. So our next goal would be to learn how you create constructors in PHP. Constructors in PHP are created a little bit differently than constructors in Java or C#. Constructors in Java and C# are generally created by using the class name. And that's how you can tell just simply by looking at the name of the function that, oh, it is named after a class, it has to be a constructor. Things are not done exactly the same way in PHP. So as soon as Aiden and Thomas are done, we will then go back to our very first example. I will create constructor there, and then I'll give you some directions for the example that you are working with. So side by side, we will take two examples where one will work together, the other one you will use as a practice example. Okay. So I don't know if, is Thomas, you're still working on it?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm asking, are you working on it?
Yeah, I'm working on it, but go ahead.
No, I'm not going ahead. I was just asking. I was asking to see if you need any help.
No, I missed the part earlier where you added the deposit, so I gotta go back and write all that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Can you see the directions?
Yeah, I can see 'em.
Oh, okay. Okay.
All right, I'm good.
Okay. So let me go back up here into the body of the class books. How to create constructor in PHP. So we do not create constructors after the class name. So how do we create them? We type the word function followed by 2 underscores. Function followed by 2 underscores. And then we write the word construct. Okay. Then we list however number of parameters we need. And then we have a body of the constructor in which we will write our instructions. So function underscores construct. I have a title parameter and I have a price parameter. This title equals to T. And this price equals to P. Just like that, your constructor will be done. Now, after writing your constructor, if you refresh the output, oop1.php, it will now fail. Because you wrote a constructor, so PHP doesn't has a default constructor. I mean, like it does has a default constructor when you don't, when you have not coded one. When you have coded one, then it requires you to match the constructor's parameters that you coded. So now I have to pass 2 parameters with each one of my objects. Okay, so C# 4566, Java 6799, and I got PHP 8999. Okay, now once I call the constructor, I'm just copy pasting my getters. Oops, yeah, my getters for each one of my books, just as a test. So that you can see that the values from the constructor are in place. So it'll display all the initial values. We'll create a horizontal row, and we'll then create set the values, and we'll show you the changed values. Okay, give me a green check when you guys are done with this example, or have made the changes and have also run this example. Cameron and Tristan are the only ones still working on it. Tristan, any errors, or you're just coding?
Coding.
Okay, just want to make sure. Okay, now I'm going back to your OOP2 example. Code a constructor to receive two parameters, okay, one for each member variable. Instantiate two instances of bank account type using constructor. And then display values of each instance. So you're doing it anyway. So if you have a setter call in your outside of the class, make sure that you display the values before the setter call, just so that you can see that the constructor is working just fine. Oh, I didn't clear the last feedback. In case, whenever you guys are done, can give me a new feedback. So I believe Kristen is still working on it. Okay. Okay. By the way, just so that you guys know, this constructor and destructor and all the other functions with underscores in front of them, they're called magic functions in PHP. Okay. So just so that you know. Magic methods, rather. And why are they called magic methods? Well, you know, they're also called special methods in some book and magic methods in the other. This allowed developers to perform a number of tasks. So that's probably, I think they might have drawn their conclusion from. But anyway, so besides creating the constructor, you can also create a destructor, and that's what I'll be creating next. So function destruct echo the class. That's how you can display the class name. Object was destroyed. I don't know if the PHP server that we are using will display this, because usually this message gets displayed. Oh, yeah, here we go. Yep, it gets destroyed in the end. How about if I do a BR? So it'll tell you in the end, as these objects are going out of scope, that for each one of them, it'll show you the destroyed message. It will tell you the class books object was destroyed 3 times. It'll tell you that. Got it, everybody? That, okay. Let's create a 4th object. Book 4 equals to new books Python $50.77. Let's display the book 4 before the HR horizontal row. Okay, don't run it yet. Then let's call the unset function on book 4. On line number 84, right after the HR, I call the unset function on H4. What this will do, let me do a BR here. So it's pretty much calling destructor on demand to get rid of an object before its lifetime ends. So that's what unset does. How about you guys go to your oop2.php and write a destructor method in your bank account and check to see that the destructor method is getting called for each of your objects. So create the destructor method for the bank account class. So whenever you are done creating a destructor for the bank account class, let me know. So Cameron, you figured out when to display that plus sign and when to hide it, because it's coming and going today. That little play button on your camera.
I'm not sure why that's happening. Actually,
Okay. Okay, now that everybody is done with this step, what I would like you guys to do next is, before you unset book 4, just type echo book 4, just like that. Just directly try to display the book 4, and followed by a couple of breaks, or maybe some message along with it. Okay, book 4 info. Okay, so let me know what you guys see when you do that.
Well, it tells me it's an uncaught error and it can't convert it to a string.
Exactly, because it is what? It is an object, right? So it cannot automatically be displayed as it is. However, let's see if we can write a magic function. Oops. Function. Echo. Oh, 1 second. Okay, so I put all of this string inside a message variable. So anytime somebody calls an object directly, the toString will kick in, and the toString will formulate an entire string. and we'll then return that in place of wherever you directly call an object. Done, everybody, with this one? Did you all get to see the error disappeared for you guys when you refreshed it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Let's take a break here, guys, till 7:25. And then when we come back at 7:25, we will going to then further this. So I'll see you guys at 7:25. What happened, James? Where did the light go? And Chris,
I have no control. I'll say
Got
I'm a
my-
Christian.
I've got my desk light on. That's good enough.
Yeah,
He's prepared.
yeah, it's good. Oh my
See,
God,
Cameron's still at
Cameron,
sea.
you're going down.
Yeah.
Oh,
You're
no.
disappearing.
I think it has to do with my connection. It's kind of glitching.
Okay. So guys, what I would like you to do right now is to write that toString function for your class and test it with an object to see that you can get to work. So it's similar to overwriting the toString function in Java, but now we call it overwriting the magic function in PHP is what we call it.
Can you show how you implemented it? Because
Yeah, sure, that's
I
fine.
think I know how it should be called, but it's not working.
Okay, just 1 minute. So what I did is I created a toString function like this on line 66 through 69.
Yep.
And then down below on line 90, I just tried displaying an object directly without any getters.
Yeah. Oh, and then it'll just work that way. You don't actually have to call the function as toString.
No, you
Okay,
don't. Yeah.
That's where I'm falling short.
Okay, let me know when you guys are done with that. So then we will move on to our next thing. Okay, let's see. Aiden is the only one left. Everybody else is done. Okay, Aiden is also done. Okay, let me clear your feedbacks. Okay, now I want you to create a new class called person.php. Person.php. In this class, in this file, we will create a class called person. So the name of the file and the name of the class are exactly the same. We will create age variable. Let's create a constructor. Constructor. Can you guys complete the rest? I mean, like, I gave you the skeleton. Can you complete the code inside? And when you're done, you can give me a green check. And create an object of person type and see if you can display the age of the person, that whatever age you set through the constructor. Okay. So here I have created my constructor, passed a parameter, set the age, destructor, my toString function, my get age, my set age. I instantiated an object. And then since I already wrote toString, that's why I didn't call the getter. I just directly call the object. Got it, everybody? This much? Okay. Oh, Tristan. Tristan is the only one I didn't get the green check from, so we'll wait till Tristan is done. By the way, whenever you guys are done, can you comment out lines 28 and 31? I will also comment those lines once Tristan is done, so that he has tested it. Let me know, Tristan, if you have any questions, okay? I assume that you're still coding.
Yes, I'm just getting error and trying to figure out where it's.
Okay, it gives you a line number.
Oh, I see. See what it was. There. I used the auto gen on some of the functions and forgot to delete the placeholder parameter on one of them.
Ah, okay. Okay, so got it now? Okay, cool. So now let's comment out lines 28 and line number 31. And let's create a new class, a new PHP file called demo person. Just so that you can see how one class or one PHP file can use an existing class in another PHP file. Okay. And the reason I made you comment those lines, because typically what happens when you make one file come into the other file, it just grabs the entire data, the entire set of lines from that file and copies it over. So if the other file has some execution lines like the ones I commented out, they will also run again. So that's why we only want the person class to be here. So we will call this function called require once, and in which we will say person.php. That's the file that I want to require once. Okay. Now go ahead and run it the way it is right now. And once the browser loads the file, it should an error out showing you that the files are able to see each other. It'll be just a blank screen with no output whatsoever.
So I'm getting way ahead of you here, but can you stuff multiple classes into here and have it work?
So again?
I said I'm getting way ahead of you here, but using this method, can you stuff multiple classes into one PHP file and then use
Yeah,
it
yeah.
a base?
Right, absolutely. Okay, everybody get this working? Now let's go to the person.php and the two lines that I asked you to comment. Uncomment both of those lines. Save the changes and refresh the demo. See? It just runs it. So that's why, since we did not want those lines to run, that's why I commented those out. So I will comment them again. Now we will test to see, since I am bringing the person.php, can I create my own person object? By the way, Thomas, if you ask PHP developers, they will never ever recommend you to have multiple classes in the same file.
Well, I figured because I can see it easily becoming a mess. But
Yes,
I was just
and
thinking,
if you have same methods between the two classes, it absolutely becomes a mess. So that's why you will, as a practice, you will never see it. You may see internal classes and external classes, but two independent internal classes now. Anyway, so now when you refresh this, you can get to see that. It does what it is supposed to do. It just displays the local object with the H25. Okay, now let's get to the inheritance example. If I go to oop1.php, where I created the book class, remember? Let me close all others. If I type over here, class novel extends books. Okay, I'm just writing only this much code for now. And you will see that everything is works fine. So it does allow you to do it, but in this particular case, it makes sense to have the parent and the child in the same file so that they can see each other. Okay. Yeah. Hold a second. First finish this, then we'll worry about the child objects and how to use it. Just let me know when you guys are done with this. Okay, so I believe Tristan and Christian and Cameron are still working on this. Okay, oh, done. Okay, Cameron's done. Okay, so Tristan is the only one who's still coding the class novel. Okay, now let's scroll down, probably somewhere down here. Child class object. Novel equals to new novel. Oops. Now, this is where I want you to look at the inheritance. The inheritance in PHP is no different than inheritance in any of the other languages. Can you see the list of methods accessible to a novel object? You know, it can see all the getters and setters in books and all the getters and setters in the novel. So let's say if I call set price, set publisher, are you guys getting any errors?
After I specified the stuff in the constructor, no.
Yeah. So you need to specify the parent's constructor on line 125. It requires the child to feed the parent's constructor at the time of declaration. So if I comment out lines 126 and 128, then the title will be June and 56, and the price will be 56. But if I uncomment outlines 126 and 128, then it'll be Carlos Way Out and 70. So far, so good, everybody? Okay. Now, oh, let me make sure. Can everybody give me a green check before I move up so that, you know, nobody's behind? That way I can know. Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Now let's scroll up, and I want to copy the get price function from the parent. Copy that. And come down in the body of the child and paste it. And make this price plus 45.
Yep, that
Done.
worked.
Now, if
Yep.
you refresh, what happens is the price comes out to be 115 versus 70. So what would you say this is? Okay, this is called your function overriding or overridden function. So a child can override a parent's function, and when the child object calls, it will call the get price from line 82. If the parent object calls, then it calls the get price in the parent. So far, everybody with me?
Yes.
Yep.
Now I want you to go to OOP2, which I asked you to create. And I want you to create a child class called saving account of the bank account class. One member variable that will be interest rate. Create a getter and a setter for the member. Instantiate an instance of saving account type. Set the data members in the parent and the child. and display all the properties for the parent object. Sorry, for the child object. And again, just if you're when you're done, just let me know with a green check that you're done. So I'm asking you to create a method, add a method called add interest in the child class, and this method will calculate interest by simply multiplying the interest rate with the balance amount, and that will be the interest amount, and that interest amount will then get added to your balance by calling the deposit method. So basically what I'm asking you to do is I'm asking you to refer to the parent class properties or parent class methods in the child class. So let me clear the previous checks, and then you guys can give me the whenever you are done with this new method and have tested it as I wrote in the comments down below. So Aiden and Josh are the only ones still working. Oh, James is also working on it. Okay. Aiden and James are still working on it. Let me share with you guys a sample output of this. So here I created a class called bank account with the balance. I have a deposit method. I mean, like it's minimal. I just wrote some of the code, but not everything. Savings account is a child of bank account with an interest rate. And it has a setter, which allows me to set the interest rate. And this is the add interest method that I told you guys. So what add interest does, it calculates the interest amount by multiplying the interest rate, which is a local property, with, it calls the get balance from the parent to read the balance amount. And then it can call the deposit and then pass whatever interest it calculated to the amount, which then gets added to the balance because we are accumulating the total. Okay. And then at the bottom, I created an object of saving account, deposit some amount, and then I set the interest rate and I call the add interest rate, which will calculate 5% of 100, and that will be my new balance. Okay. Now let's go to the person.php class. Create a child class called tall person of the person class. Create a constructor to display just the message tall person. Create an object of tall person type and then display the age of the person.
And put that in demo person, right?
So again?
And put that in demo person, right?
No. Put this all in the person. In the person.php class.
Right. Now I'm talking about the
Oh, the object
like putting
of
the
yeah.
Okay.
So demo person, right? Okay, everybody got this? We're still working on it. So just to share with you some of the code here. So I created a tall person as a child of person. Here's a constructor that displays echo like tall person. And I have a speak function, which says I'm not just a person, but a, and this is how you display the class name and a new line character, right? Okay. And then I went to the demo person, created an object of tall person type and called a speak method. Okay, Tristan, are you still coding?
Yes.
Sorry, did you say something, Kristen? I didn't hear you.
Yeah.
Tristan.
Yeah. Okay, I broke something in the construct construct.
You're having an error in the constructor?
Yeah.
Okay, let me show you this. Okay. You use 2 underscores?
Yeah, the speak is fine. I just overthought the actual constructor. With I went through the long and unnecessary way of making a variable with return statement.
Oh, is it fixed now?
Yes.
Okay. So now let's scroll back up to the person class. And in the person class, let me introduce H2. This is static. Do you guys remember static stuff from Java or C#? What is static?
Yeah, just a variable that's shared between all the instances.
Right. So something that is at the class level, if it changes for everybody in the class. So it's a static. So if it is static, it can only be changed with the static method. You cannot change a static variable otherwise. So we'll create a class called public. You can use the word public, private, and protected also here. I didn't use it this far, but public static function called +1. Okay. So here I want to return the person's age is now H2 and BR. Okay. Now something different I want to do here, but I'm just first complete line 7, and then I'll tell you what I want to do different here. So so you will be coding lines 4 through 8. So now, guys, if we were to change the value of an object level property, you use this, right? But when you have to use change the value of something static, then you use self, like that, self. Self means it is for the class level. And this is at the object level. And since I want to increment it by 1, I can just do that. Okay, so every time +1 gets called, I'm incrementing the value of age 2 by 1. So far, so good? Everybody is done with this? Because I'll now be moving on to the demo person. This is where we will learn to use static methods. So do, while, person, because it's static h2, right? h2 is less than 10. So I want to keep looping as long as the value of h2 is less than 10. And I want to do is I would like to call, see, I'm using a class name to call +1, not the object name, because it's a static method. So every time I call +1, it will increment the value of h2 by 1. And this process will continue till the h2 equals 10, and then the loop will terminate. So whenever you run this program, your output will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, and then it'll terminate. Why 10 and terminate? Because there's a post condition loop. Okay, everybody with me on this one? Done? Working? So this is the output that I received, just in case you want to check your output.
What did you initiate age 2 to be? Like, what did you set it to initially?
0.
Oh, my things. I had H2 plus plus instead of plus plus H2. Yeah, okay, now it's good.
So now let's create another PHP file here. Is called test.php. Just a simple class called my class with a private object car. So as you can see, it just turn it in a red color, show the red color to show it's private. And then we have a driver for this one. Tim. Okay. Why is it giving an error? Syntax error? Oh, maybe it's because of this. No?
I'm not sure if that error actually means anything. I've been having I've been having Eclipse and PHP throwing up all sorts of errors and not clearing them when they should.
You didn't put a $sign in front of it. Would that do it?
Oh, you're absolutely right. Thank you. And notice, guys, when I'm trying to access the private function, it's not even showing in the list. Just to show you guys that that the private functions are inaccessible to anybody. So when you run this example, all you'll be able to see is let's see. Driver, right? Why the driver is not getting displayed? Let's see the driver.
Oh, don't we have to do this driver?
You're absolutely right. So the Tim will be overridden by Sue. Okay, everybody get to see that?
Yeah.
Let me clear the feedback, making sure that everybody, if it gives me a check, then I'll move on to our next example. And while we are moving on to our next example, do you guys remember the difference between abstract versus the concrete classes?
Doesn't abstract make a class more explicit?
Can you be more explicit in your explanation?
No, I mean like it excludes other things, like it can't be inherited from.
No, it can be inherited from. It's not a final, it's an abstract class.
Huh.
No, don't remember abstract classes?
No.
Abstract classes
Don't
are
they-
those classes.
Don't
which
they
are-
work like
Well, at least I thought I
interfaces?
remember. I don't remember.
Go ahead, Christian.
Don't they work like interfaces in C#? Like
No,
where it's just no. Okay, then I'm
no,
remembering
interfaces are
something
different. Abstract classes are different. Abstract classes are those classes that are incomplete. They have at least one incomplete method. So a child class is forced to write the incomplete methods. And all the complete methods are inheritable. You can override the complete methods, but incomplete method you have to override as a child class. And that's what creates an abstract class. Any class that is complete in its sense of all its functions, it's called a concrete class. Okay, so abstract classes are incomplete. What does that mean? You cannot instantiate any instances of abstract classes. So you can use them as a parent class, but you cannot instantiate instances from them. So that's what we will be looking at next, that how we can create abstract classes in PHP. So we will create a demo, abstract PHP. So when you guys run this example, you will get an output, woof, right? So why do we create abstract classes? Well, for two reasons. Number one, sometimes the parent class is so generic that you do not want anybody to instantiate an object of a parent type, because you are already writing very specific children. You do not want anybody to be an animal. You want people to be dog or cat or cow or snake, right? So you don't want anybody to be an animal. However, you want all the commonalities between all the children of animal to be an animal so that they can inherit from. You don't have to write that code multiple times. And anything that you want to force through those children, you can create that abstract. That's one reason to create an abstract class. There are other reasons, like it's also used in dynamic polymorphism in other object-oriented, the full-fledged object-oriented languages, but not here. Here is just a way for you to create a generalized parent from where you want to stop instantiation. And the reason number 2 is that you want to force at least one method on the children through the parent. Okay. So what I would like you guys to do next is copy lines 6 through 11 and paste it to create another child called cow. And then simply refresh to get the output for cow. Now in the animal class, let's create a protected name. And then go ahead and create a getter and a setter for name. Okay, so I created the setter and the getter for the name. And then once I was done with that, I went down and I also used the setters and the getters with my objects. So they can call the parent class methods of an abstract class exactly the same way that they would call the getters and setters in the non-abstract parent class. There is no difference in that. Everybody got this?
Yep.
Okay, cool. We're going to stop here, guys, for tonight, and we will continue with object-oriented programming again next week. We have a few more topics to go through in object-oriented programming with PHP. So we'll continue with that next week. Along with, we'll try to incorporate JSON with PHP next week. So I will see you guys next week. There isn't anything assigned to you for now. Just want to make sure that these are the people who are not here. Oops. Come on. Okay, so that's all for today, guys.
Alrighty.
Take care. I'll see you guys
yeah.
Good
later
night.
this week. Good night.
Yep. Have a
Bye.
good night. I will see you Friday.
Friday. Cool.
Few weeks.
Yeah. Good night.
Night.